Chun regained consciousness to the sound of human voices. Got another one over here. Medic. Jesus, what happened to this place? Looks like a bomb went off. Multiple bombs. Chun tried to speak but managed only a weak cough that sent lightning through his broken ribs. A face appeared in his vision, young, earnest, wearing the distinctive helmet of a Marine Corps combat engineer. Take it easy, Sergeant, the Marine said. You're pretty banged up, but you're going to be okay. How long? Chun managed to whisper, How long what, Sergeant? How long was I out? The engineer checked his watch. We've been digging for about 6 hours. You've been missing for 8 days. 8 days. Chun's heart raced as the implications hit him. If the HFY invasion was still on schedule, Earth had less than 3 months to prepare for the largest military action in human history. Need to contact Fleet Command, Chin gasped as the medics worked to free him from the debris. Invasion ... Tumming? Easy there, Sergeant, the medic said as he inserted in 4-line. You've got a severe concussion. Try to stay calm. Chin wanted to grab the man and shake him, to make him understand the urgency of the situation, but his body wouldn't cooperate. The morphine in the 4 was already doing its work, dragging him back toward unconsciousness. Listen to me, he said with as much strength as he could muster. The HFY. They're not peaceful. They killed my squad. Planning invasion of Earth, 3 months. The Marines exchanged glances. Chun could see them wondering if his injuries had affected his mind. He couldn't blame them. His story sounded insane. We'll get you to the Fleet Medical Bay, the medic assured him. You can make your report once you've been properly treated. Chun fought the drugs long enough to grab the medic's arm. Find Captain Vexstar. HFY officer. He was in the cell with me when the ceiling collapsed. Already did, said another voice. Chun turned his head to see a Marine colonel approaching through the rubble. Colonel Morrison, 3rd Marine Expeditionary Unit. We found your alien friend about 20 meters that way. He didn't make it. Chun felt a mixture of relief and regret. Captain Vexstar had been an enemy, but he had also been a professional soldier. In other circumstances, Chun might have respected him. His body is being taken up for examination, Colonel Morrison continued. Along with everything else we can salvage from this facility, Intelligence is going to have a field day with this place. As the rescue team carefully extracted Chun from the debris, he got his first good look at what remained of the HFY complex. The destruction was even more complete than he had hoped. The power conduit explosion had triggered a cascade failure that brought down nearly half the facility. Underground rivers had flooded the lower levels, destroying computer systems and equipment that would have taken years to replace, but Chun's satisfaction was tempered by a growing worry. The HFY were highly advanced, with a civilization that spanned multiple star systems. The loss of one facility would be setback, not a defeat. They would adapt, adjust their timeline, and Earth would still face an invasion it couldn't possibly win. The trip to the surface took nearly an hour, with rescue teams carefully navigating through unstable passages and flooded chambers. When they finally emerged into daylight, Chin was amazed to see dozens of marine dropships and engineering vehicles surrounding the area. The full might of the 3rd MU had been deployed to find him. "How did you find me?" Chun asked as they loaded him into a medical transport. "Your squad's emergency beacon," Colonel Morrison explained. "It activated automatically when Corporal Martinez died, but the signal was too weak to reach orbit from inside that complex. When the explosions breached the surface, we got a strong enough signal to triangulate your position." Chun closed his eyes and said a silent prayer of thanks for Martinez. Even in death, his Marines were still watching his back. The trip to the Fleet Medical Bay passed in a haze of pain, medication, and worried dreams. Chun kept seeing Captain Vexstar's face, hearing his confident predictions about humanity's inevitable defeat. 50 million alien soldiers armed with weapons that could punch through marine combat armor. 1,000 ships that could reduce Earth cities to ash within hours. He woke up 3 days later in a clean hospital bed, surrounded by officers from Fleet Intelligence. Admiral Sarah Rodriguez, the expedition commander, sat beside his bed with a tablet full of questions. "Sergeant Chun," she said formally, Your debriefing report has been transmitted to Earth and is currently being reviewed by the Joint Chiefs. I want you to know that your actions on Kepler 442c have already saved lives. Chun struggled to sit up. Admiral, with respect, the Jekai are planning a full-scale invasion of Earth. My actions might have delayed them, but they won't stop them. You're right about the delay, Admiral Rodriguez agreed. The destruction of their intelligence facility has forced them to postpone their invasion timeline by at least 6 months. But Sergeant, you may have done something much more important than buying us time. She activated her tablet, showing Chun a 3-dimensional model of the Shekai complex. Our engineers have been analyzing the wreckage you created. The technology down there is centuries ahead of anything we possess, but it's not magic. We're learning. Chun studied the display. Red markers indicated where his sabotage had caused the most damage, while blue markers showed areas where human salvage teams had recovered intact equipment. More importantly, the Admiral continued, we've intercepted Jekai communications discussing what they call the human factor. Your refusal to break under interrogation and your destruction of their facility has shaken their confidence. They're reassessing their assumptions about human psychology and military capabilities. Good, Chun said grimly. They should be worried. Admiral Rodriguez smiled. Indeed they should, because while they're busy reassessing, Earth is preparing. Your intelligence about their invasion fleet has allowed us to begin developing countermeasures. The 6 months you bought us will make all the difference. Chun felt some of the weight lift from his shoulders. His squad hadn't died for nothing. Their sacrifice was giving humanity a chance to fight back. What about the other missing ships? Chun asked. Search teams have located them, just as Captain Vexstar claimed. The crews didn't survive, but we've recovered their data logs and cargo manifests. The Jekai have been systematically eliminating any human presence near their sacred mining sites. So much for peaceful aliens, Chun muttered. The Joint Chiefs share your skepticism? Diplomatic relations have been officially suspended, and the Jekai embassy on Earth has been asked to leave. We're assuming that anything they learned during the diplomatic phase is now in the hands of their military. Admiral Rodriguez stood and moved to the window, gazing out at the stars. There's something else, Sergeant. Your actions in that complex have inspired a new military doctrine. We're calling it the Shane Protocol. Chun raised an eyebrow. What's that supposed to mean? It means that when faced with overwhelming odds and certain defeat, a Marine's job isn't to surrender or even to die heroically. It's to cause maximum disruption to enemy operations, even at the cost of your own life. The Admiral turned back to face him. Your example is being taught in every military academy and training facility in human space. The thought of his desperate improvisation becoming formal military doctrine would have been funny if the situation weren't so serious. Chun had been operating on pure survival instinct and marine stubbornness. Now they were turning it into a strategy. Will it be enough? Chun asked. The Jekai have superior numbers, superior technology, and they've been planning this invasion for years. Maybe not, Admiral Rodriguez admitted. But you've taught us something important about ourselves. Humans don't calculate odds before deciding whether to fight. We don't weigh cost-benefit ratios or conduct feasibility studies. When someone threatens what we care about, we hit back as hard as we can and worry about the consequences later. She activated another display showing Earth's orbital defenses. Chun was amazed to see the massive construction projects already underway. Weapons platforms, shield generators, and defensive satellites were being assembled at a pace that would have been impossible without the advanced warning his intelligence had provided. The Jekai think they understand us. Admiral Rodriguez continued. They've studied our communications, our psychology, our military history, but they made one critical error. They based their analysis on how humans behave when we're not threatened with extinction. Chun nodded slowly. Throughout human history, the species had shown a remarkable ability to put aside internal differences when faced with external threats. World wars had been ended by common enemies. Political rivals had become allies when survival was at stake. When the Jekai invasion fleet arrives, Admiral Rodriguez said. They're not going to face the divided, squabbling civilization they've been studying. They're going to face 6 billion humans who are united by one simple fact. Aliens killed our people and want to enslave our world. Through the medical bay window, Chen could see human ships moving in formation, conducting training exercises with an intensity born of desperation. Every vessel, from massive battlecruisers to tiny fighters, was being prepared for the coming battle. The Marines of your squad didn't die in vain, Admiral Rodriguez said quietly. The interrogation began immediately. Commander Thaxel attached a series of neural probes to Shin's skull, each one sending waves of fire through his nervous system. The alien's instruments measured every biological response, cataloging pain thresholds and stress reactions with scientific precision. Your species has an unusually high tolerance for physical discomfort, the commander observed after 2 hours of systematic torture. Most interesting. Chun said nothing. He had retreated into the mental techniques learned during survival training, focusing on distant memories while his body endured the present horror. His drill instructor's voice echoed in his mind. Pain is just weakness leaving the body, Marines. The sessions continued for 3 days. Commander Thaxel tried everything from direct neural stimulation to psychological manipulation, but Shin revealed nothing beyond his name, rank, and serial number. The alien's frustration became increasingly evident with each failed attempt. On the 4th day, everything changed. Chun was barely conscious when the cell door opened. He expected another session with the commander's instruments, but instead found himself facing the soldier who had led the ambush in the forest. I am Captain Vexstar, the alien announced. Commander Thaxel believes you can be broken through patience and science. I disagree. The captain moved with the fluid grace of a born warrior. Unlike the commander's careful, methodical approach, Vexstar radiated barely contained violence. Shun had seen the type before in human soldiers, those who lived for combat and found purpose only in conflict. You killed many of my warriors in the forest, Captain Vexstar continued. 12 humans against 40 Jekai, and you made us pay for every meter of ground. Impressive, but ultimately pointless. Chun forced himself to sit straighter in the chair. The neural probes had been removed, leaving him clear-headed but weak. Those Marines were worth 10 of your soldiers each, perhaps. But they are dead. And you are here? Captain Vexstar activated a holographic display that showed the orbital space around. Kepler 442c. Chun could see human ships maintaining standard patrol patterns, unaware of the threat below. Your fleet believes you are conducting routine surveys. They have no idea of our presence. They'll figure it out when we miss our next scheduled report, will they? Your communications specialist sent his last check-in before the attack as scheduled. We have been monitoring all transmissions since your arrival. The captain gestured, and the display shifted to show Earth itself, blue and beautiful against the void. 3 months from now, when your survey mission is scheduled to return, we will launch our invasion fleet. 1,000 ships, carrying 50 million soldiers. Chun felt ice form in his stomach. Earth's entire military couldn't stand against a force that size. Humanity would be enslaved within weeks. Their planet stripped bare just like the Jekai intended to do to Kepler 442c. However, Captain Vexstar continued, there is another option. You could help us minimize the bloodshed by betraying my own species. By being practical, your resistance will only prolong the suffering. Humanity will fall, this is inevitable. But how many humans die in the process depends on how much useful intelligence you provide. Chen studied the alien's face, looking for tells and weaknesses just as he would with any enemy. Captain Vexstar was supremely confident, certain of his species' inevitable victory. That confidence might be exploited. You want information about Earth's defenses, Chun said. Among other things. Ship positions, military bases, population centers that might serve as examples to discourage further resistance. And in exchange, we will limit civilian casualties during the initial assault. Your cities will be occupied rather than destroyed. Your people will be enslaved rather than exterminated. Chun almost laughed. The aliens thought they were offering him a bargain, slavery instead of genocide. They truly didn't understand humans at all. I need to think about this, Shun said finally. Captain Vexstar nodded approvingly. Wisdom. I will return tomorrow for your answer. When the captain left, Chen was alone with his thoughts for the first time since the capture. He used the time to assess his situation with cold military logic. The facts were clear. He was one man against an entire alien civilization. Trapped in an underground complex with no weapons and no way to contact Earth. By any rational measure. His mission was already over, but Marines weren't rational. They were stubborn, aggressive, and too dumb to know when they were beaten. Chun began to smile as a plan formed in his mind. The next day, Captain Vexstar returned as promised. Have you made your decision, Staff Sergeant? I have. Chun met the alien's multifaceted gaze. Go screw yourself. Captain Vexstar was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried the promise of violence. I had hoped you might be reasonable. Reasonable went out the window when you murdered my Marines. They died in combat honorably. You could do the same. The captain drew his sidearm, a sleek energy weapon that hummed with lethal power. Give up or I'll end you. Chun looked at the weapon, at the alien warrior holding it, at the sterile walls of his prison cell. Then he began to smile, not the bitter grimace of a beaten man, but the genuine expression of someone who had just realized something wonderful. You know what's funny about humans? Chun asked. We're really, really good at screwing up your carefully laid plans. Captain Vexstar's grip tightened on his weapon. Explain. See, you've been monitoring our communications for months, learning about our technology, studying our psychology. You think you understand us? Chun's smile grew wider. But you missed the most important thing about human nature. And what is that? We never, ever give up. Not when we're outgunned, not when we're outnumbered, not when the entire universe tells us we can't win. Chen leaned forward as much as his restraints would allow. And we're really good at taking our enemies with us when we go down. For the first time, Chun saw uncertainty flicker across the alien's features. You are secured in the most advanced prison on this world. You have no weapons, no allies, no means of escape or communication. Don't need any of those things. Then how do you propose to threaten us? Chun's smile became predatory. Tell me, Captain, how long do you think it took me to figure out the power routing for this facility? Captain Vexstar's head tilted in confusion. What? Those first 3 days, while your scientist friend was playing with his torture toys, I was watching, learning every guard rotation, every system check, every maintenance routine. Chun gestured toward the ceiling with his chin. Did you know the primary power conduit for this entire complex runs directly over my cell? The alien looked up, and Chen saw the exact moment when understanding dawned. The captain's forearms reached for various controls, but Chen was already moving during the torture sessions. Commander Thaxel had been very careful to remove the neural probes after each interrogation. But he had been less careful about checking the restraint system. Chen had been working on the left arm coupling for 3 days, using microscopic movements to gradually weaken the metal, the restraint. Gave way just as Captain Vexstar raised his weapon. Chun rolled out of the chair as the energy beams scorched the metal where his head had been a moment before. His injured leg nearly betrayed him, but adrenaline carried him forward in a desperate lunge. The impact drove both of them into the instrument panel along the wall. Alien technology sparked and shattered as they crashed through delicate monitoring equipment. Captain Vexstar was stronger, but Chin had the advantage of desperation and 3 days of careful planning. His hands found the captain's sidearm, just as 4 alien fists slammed into his ribs. The breath exploded from his lungs, but Chain held on. He twisted the weapon around and jammed it against the ceiling panel he had been studying. Human stubbornness at its finest, Chun gasped. If I can't warn Earth, at least I can make sure you don't get any more intelligence out of this place. Captain Vexstar's eyes widened as he realized what Chun intended. The power conduit carried enough energy to obliterate the entire underground complex. You'll kill yourself. That's the point. Chen pulled the trigger. The energy beam punched through the ceiling panel and into the main power conduit like a hot knife through butter. For a split second, nothing happened. Then the lights flickered, alarms began shrieking, and the taste of ozone filled the air. "You insane primitive!" Captain Vexstar threw Shan across the room. The Marine hit the wall hard enough to crack ribs, but he was laughing as he fell. "That's humans for you," Shan wheezed. "Too stupid to know when we're beaten." The complex shook as secondary explosions began rippling through the lower levels. Captain Vexstar spoke rapidly into a communication device, his voice tight with barely controlled panic. Chen couldn't understand the words, but the tone was universal. Things were going very, very badly. "Evacuation protocols are in effect," the captain said, turning back to Chen. "You have destroyed months of preparation, but you have accomplished nothing. Our invasion fleet will still launch on schedule. Maybe, but you won't be leading it." The floor tilted as another explosion rocked the complex. Somewhere in the distance, Chen could hear the sound of rushing water. Apparently, they had built this place near an underground river. Captain Vexstar grabbed Chen by the throat and lifted him off the ground with two arms while keeping his weapon trained with the other T. Staff Sergeant Marcus Chun had seen enough battlefields to know when something wasn't right. The alien forest around them pulsed with an unnatural blue glow, and the silence felt thick enough to cut with his combat knife. His squad of 12 Marines moved through the twisted vegetation like ghosts, their adaptive camouflage shifting to match the strange crystalline trees that dominated this world. "Contact ahead," whispered Corporal Santos through the comm system. "Unknown structures, 2 clicks north." Chun raised his fist and the squad froze. Through his enhanced visor, he could see massive geometric buildings rising from the forest floor like angry metal mountains. The structures defied human understanding of architecture, with surfaces that seemed to bend light around them and towers that twisted impossibly into the sky. The mission had started simple enough. Earth's first contact with alien intelligence had gone better than anyone expected. The Jekai Empire had seemed reasonable, even friendly. Trade agreements were signed, technology was shared, and humanity thought they had found allies among the stars. Then the mining rights dispute began. The planet Kepler 442c held enough rare earth metals to power human civilization for 1,000 years. The Jekai claimed it was sacred ground, forbidden to outsiders. Diplomats argued for months while corporations pressed for access. When the first human mining vessel disappeared near the planet, followed by 2 more, the military was called in. Chun's squad was part of the 3rd Marine Expeditionary Unit, sent to investigate the missing ships and establish a beachhead for potential rescue operations. What they found instead was a world that had been watching them from the moment they entered orbit. "Movement in the trees," Santos reported. "Multiple contacts moving to surround us." Chun cursed under his breath. Their mission briefing had mentioned possible hostile wildlife, but nothing about organized resistance. The Jekai had maintained that Kepler 442c was uninhabited except for automated mining prevention systems. "Take defensive positions," Chun ordered. "Wilson, get on the horn to Orbital Command. Tell them we've got unexpected company." Private Wilson, their communications specialist, pressed buttons on his long-range transmitter with practiced efficiency. After a moment, his face went pale. "Sarge, I'm getting nothing but static. Something's jamming our signal." The forest erupted into chaos. Energy beams sliced through the air like deadly lightning, turning the ancient crystal trees into explosive shards. Chun dove behind a fallen log as his squad scattered for cover. The attack was coordinated, professional, and absolutely devastating. "Return fire." Chun shouted, but his voice was nearly drowned out by the sound of alien weapons. These weren't the mining prevention systems they had been warned about. This was a military ambush. The Jekai soldiers emerged from their concealment like nightmares made real. They stood nearly 8 feet tall, with 4 powerful arms and skin that shifted color to match their surroundings. Their weapons fired coherent energy that could punch through. Marine combat armor like tissue paper. Lance Corporal Rodriguez screamed as an energy bolt caught him in the shoulder. spinning him around and sending him crashing into the undergrowth. Chun saw 3 more of his Marines go down in the first 30 seconds of the firefight. "We need to move," Chun yelled into his fighting withdrawal to the extraction point. But as his remaining Marines tried to fall back, more HFY soldiers appeared behind them. They were completely surrounded, outnumbered at least 3-1 by an enemy that had been preparing for this encounter. Chun's rifle barked as he put controlled bursts into the nearest alien soldier. His enhanced rounds found their mark, but the HFY wore armor that seemed to absorb the impact. It staggered but kept coming, raising its weapon for a killing shot. The energy beam never came. Instead, Corporal Martinez tackled the alien from the side, driving his combat knife deep into what looked like a joint in its armor. The HFY shrieked, a sound like tearing metal, and collapsed. "Nice work, Martinez," Chun called out, but his celebration was cut short as he saw more aliens closing in from all sides. The battle lasted another 10 minutes, though it felt like hours. One by one, Chain's Marines fell to superior numbers and firepower. Santos took an energy bolt to the chest that punched completely through his body armor. Wilson died trying to repair their communications equipment. Martinez held off 3 HFY soldiers with nothing but his sidearm and a handful of grenades before they finally brought him down when the shooting stopped. Only Shen remained conscious. His left arm hung useless at his side, burned by an energy weapon that had come too close. Blood ran down his face from a cut on his forehead, and his combat armor was cracked in a dozen places. The HFY soldiers approached cautiously. Even after overwhelming his squad, they treated him with obvious respect. Their leader, distinguishable by the complex symbols etched into his armor, gestured with 2 of his 4 arms. "This one still lives," the leader said in perfect English. "Interesting." Chun struggled to his feet, using a broken tree branch for support. His rifle was gone, lost somewhere in the chaos of battle, but his sidearm remained holstered. He made no move toward it. Professional soldiers knew when a fight was over. "You speak our language," Chun observed. His voice was steady despite the pain. "We have been monitoring your species for some time," the HFY leader replied. "Your crude radio transmissions, your primitive computer networks. We know much about human military tactics." "Then you know we don't go down easy." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "Your squad fought well for primitives. Better than we expected. But you are alone now, and far from any rescue." Chun looked around at the bodies of his Marines scattered through the forest. Good soldiers, every one of them. They had followed him into hell because he had asked them to, and now they were dead because he hadn't seen the ambush coming. "Your mission was to investigate missing ships, was it not?" The HFY leader continued. "I can tell you their fate. They rest at the bottom of our deepest ocean, along with their crews. Murder," Chun said quietly. "Prevention. Your species would strip this world bare for profit, just as you have done to your own planet. We could not allow that." Chun tested his weight on his injured leg. It held, though every step sent lightning bolts of pain up his spine. "So what happens now? You going to add me to that ocean collection?" The alien leader considered this. "Perhaps. Or perhaps you might prove useful. Your orbital ships believe you, and your squad are simply conducting routine surveys. They expect regular check-ins, but nothing urgent. You could help us maintain that fiction. Go to hell." Such defiance, even in defeat. The alien tilted its head in what might have been curiosity. "Your species is remarkably stubborn. This could be useful." Chun said nothing. He had been trained to resist interrogation, to reveal nothing of value even under extreme duress. But he could see in the alien's multifaceted eyes that this was not going to be a simple matter of withholding information. "We will take you to our command center," the leader decided. "Commander Thaxel will want to examine you personally. He has been studying human psychology in preparation for the eventual conquest of your homeworld." The words hit Chun like a physical blow. This wasn't just about Kepler 442c or mining rights. The HFY were planning to invade Earth. "Your face reveals much," the alien leader observed. "Yes, we intend to claim your planet as well. Your species shows promise as laborers once properly controlled. 2 HFY soldiers moved to flank Chun, their weapons trained on his chest. He could try to fight, might even take one of them with him, but it would accomplish nothing. His squad was dead, his mission had failed, and Earth didn't even know they were in danger. As they marched him deeper into the forest, Ching began planning. He was a United States Marine, and Marines never gave up. Somehow, some way, he was going to get word back to Earth about what was coming. And if he could take a few aliens with him in the process, so much the better. The HFY Command Center turned out to be a massive underground complex, hidden beneath what looked like natural rock formations. The technology was far beyond anything humanity had developed. But Ching studied everything he could see with a soldier's eye for detail: guard rotations, weapon placements, structural weak points. He cataloged it all. If the opportunity came to strike back, he would be ready. They brought him to a holding cell that looked more like a laboratory. The walls were lined with strange instruments and monitoring devices, all focused on a simple metal chair in the center of the room. Chun had no illusions about what was going to happen to him there. "Commander Thaxel will join you shortly," the alien leader said. "I suggest you consider cooperation. The alternative will be most unpleasant." Chun was left alone in the cell with 2 guards posted outside. He tested the strength of his restraints and examined every inch of the room for potential weapons or escape routes. The aliens had been thorough, but no prison was perfect. As he waited, Chun thought about his squad. Martinez, who had 3 kids back home and talked about them constantly. Santos, who could fix any piece of equipment with nothing but determination and spare parts. Wilson, barely 19 years old and still writing letters to his mother every week. They had died following his orders. Now it was his responsibility to make their sacrifice.